Now I'm very excited to have the 2024 Amgen Prize, the MIT Solve Pitch Competition. This year, the Amgen Prize seeks innovative solutions from nonprofit organizations and NGOs around the world that improve the journey of patients with rare diseases from diagnosis to treatment and holistic care. This session will be the final pitch competition of the finalists who will compete to win the Amgen Prize. The winner will later be announced tomorrow on the East Stage. So please welcome Margaret Faul and Noel Shaskan.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. And I want to thank also everybody to be here who is here with us. So my name is Margaret Faul. I'm the Vice President of Drug Substance Technologies at Amgen, and I also lead the site of the Amgen Massachusetts site in Cambridge and Boston. So at Amgen, we are passionate about serving patients around the world, helping them live longer, happier, and healthier lives. So we are focused on 4 primary therapeutic areas. And over the past year, we've been excited to enhance our ability to serve patients within the rare disease community. We're getting to know more about this special community. We recognize that people with rare diseases often face a difficult journey. Approximately half are undiagnosed. Many lack approved treatments. And both the patients and their caregivers often experience financial and social burdens, along with loneliness and isolation. At Amgen, our mission is to serve patients. And this mission is what defines us every day, serving every patient, every time. And so, to help drive change for the patient population suffering from rare diseases, we want to do that by delivering for our patients. Amgen scientists were early pioneers in the biotechnology industry when the company was founded over 40 years ago. And we remain a leader on the cutting edge of innovation to discover, develop, manufacture, and deliver treatments to fight the world's toughest diseases. We're taking one step further to support innovation by and for the rare disease community. And to do so, we've teamed up with our MIT Solve colleagues who share the passion for combining impact and innovation. And to tell you more about Solve and its mission, I'm going to hand it off to Noel.
Hey everyone, it's great to see you all. Thanks for being here today. My name is Noel Shaskan, and I am the Health Community Lead at Solve. Solve is an initiative of MIT, and we recognize that there's a lot of really tough challenges that are facing the world today. We believe that to help solve these challenges, we really need new voices and ideas. So we launch open calls for innovation that anyone, anywhere in the world can apply to. Selected teams receive support to scale their work and their impact. This is a sticky button here. So in addition to these challenges that we run globally ourselves, we also partner with other organizations who want to find and support innovators that are specific to their cause. In this case, teaming up with Amgen to find innovators that are working in the rare disease space.
So this year, we partnered to launch the Amgen Prize, formerly known as the Horizon Prize. And the focus of the Amgen Prize is to understand how nonprofits and non-governmental agencies can use innovation to improve the journey for patients with rare diseases, from diagnosis to treatment to holistic care. Whether they're fostering a sense of community, acting as fierce advocates, or serving as drivers for research, nonprofits and non-governmental organizations are uniquely poised to help address unmet needs in the rare disease space.
So the challenge launched earlier this year, and we received applications from all over the world. With the help of an independent expert judging panel, some of whom are here today at the front, we narrowed that down to 5 finalists. And that's who you're going to be hearing from in just a few moments.
So for today's session, we'll hear from each of our 5 finalists who will give a 3-minute pitch about their work, and then their pitches are going to be followed by a short Q&A with our judging panel.
So the judges are going to be evaluating the finalists on a number of criteria. So for example, alignment to the challenge, their potential for impact, feasibility, and many more. After this pitch session later this afternoon, they're going to be discussing and deliberating to ultimately choose the winner of the challenge.
And the winner will be announced tomorrow, the Amgen Prize, and they will receive $150,000 in funding to further their work and their impact. So with that, without further ado, let's turn it over to our finalists. And so the first solution is Data Coordination Center for Individualized Treatments, presented by Winston Yan, founding president of N=1 Collaboration. So please join me in welcoming Winston to the stage.
There you go.
Good afternoon. So on behalf of my colleagues backstage who are also working in rare disease, I'm first going to give you why we as a society should care about rare disease and defining it. So the technical definition of rare disease is that there are less than 200,000 people in the US who have the condition. That's a lot of numbers and a lot of people between 0 and 200,000. Now there's over 10,000 rare diseases total. So you do that math, and this is not just a small problem, it's a misnomer. Rare disease might be individually rare, but it's collectively common. And I guarantee you that most of you in this audience know somebody or a family member who have a rare disease. So with that said, we'll go into what the Data Coordination Center does for this problem. So the focus I want to share with you is an additional problem called ultra-rare disease. There are rare diseases on the left, like cystic fibrosis, like sickle cell. They have tens of thousands of patients. They have multiple hundreds of trials. And they have even approved therapies. On the right side, you have patients like Mila, like Valeria. They're one of maybe 70 who have ever been reported to have this. And furthermore, no company is going after this tiny, rare population at the moment because it's unfortunately too small for any commercial realization. So that's true across that long tail of rare disease, the thousands of patients, really probably millions of patients worldwide who have just these N of few diseases. We can now do something about it today. On the left, you have nusinersen. This is a treatment for a very serious rare disease that was developed over a decade for thousands of patients. Now, on the right, what happened was that little girl Mila received a drug that was designed, made, and given to her in a single year. So this is the power of these programmable genetic platforms and the opportunity we have today. We can, just like how the COVID vaccine, every single year, you have a new updated variant. With these genetic medicines, you can update it so that a treatment can be tailored for every single individual one day with rare disease. But the problem is this. Those who develop rare disease, they don't talk to each other, right? These developers are siloed. And ultimately what happens is that patients suffer. So in this case, Valeria was another individual, a 2-year-old who received one of these first genetic medicines that were individualized. She first improved, but she died of a very rare side effect of these treatments. What happens is that when the FDA approves these trials, they make no requirement for us to share data amongst each other. And that ultimately means that we're building these treatments without learning from each other. We're repeating mistakes. The question is, how can we share data and experiences to learn and make safer treatments? So the N=1 Collaborative was solved to exactly answer and address this challenge. There's two parts, the people, and you also have the infrastructure. The people are drug developers, patient advocates, patients themselves who are now saying, let's change the culture of drug development and let's actually share as much as we can the learnings along the way. The knowledge base is being built up by taking all of those innovations and the learnings, putting them in a commonly accessible set of playbooks and guidelines, as well as in shared databases that can be accessible. So focusing on our people, since 2022, when we got up and running, we now have over 600 members worldwide, and we have 65 experts who are committing their hard, really their precious time to be able to focus on developing individualized medicines. And across all of that, we have a core team of 9 individuals, volunteers and paid, that support this entire effort. The knowledge base is actually, the infrastructure of it is being piloted today. What we have here is a playbook that goes across patient selection all the way to the clinical trials. And these are what the work groups are working on. And this is where we as the N of 1 Collaborative, in working with key partners, make possible that shared framework for everyone to use. Here, we're not focused on a single product or a single approval. The process is the product, and that's what we want to enable. So the Amgen Prize comes with it with many benefits. There's one thing I want to focus on today, and it's how do industry insights update the business model of rare disease? Can we actually say for these ultra-rare disease, instead of focusing on billion-dollar molecules and trying to get a few of them, can we make thousands and hopefully millions of treatments, individual treatments worldwide, and turn that into a sustainable engine for both treatment and success? So with that, I'll leave it here on, this is Mila. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2021 due to her disease. That drug wasn't enough to stop it, but her lasting legacy is in this movement that's catalyzed from Mila to millions. And thank you all today for listening to that.
Great job, Winston. All right, I would like to now hand it over to our expert panel of judges for any questions that you have about the N of 1 Collaborative. Nadia?
Well, congratulations on being a finalist and all the progress your team has made to date. Can you describe how the N of 1 Collaborative defines success? Is it reaching a clinical trial, gaining regulatory approval, or something else?
Yeah, that's a really important question for the big problem that we're trying to solve. I think ultimately it's about the number of patients that are treated using this pathway. And I'm going to add a very key and here. It's the amount of number of those that are shared in the public space for others to learn from. I mean, treatment not only benefits the patient, but in this case, when you're talking about these genetic medicine platforms, the learnings actually come back. So the more treatments you enable, the more experience you gain with them, the more you can feed that back into the ecosystem and build safer and more effective treatments. And then there is that key point of regulatory improvement where, again, the more regulators see, like the FDA, the EMA, and the UK, the MHRA, the more that they see that this pathway can work and iterations of it, they too can see where streamlining can happen from this traditional drug development process to actually meet the needs of patients in time to treat them and not just somebody in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Winston. Diego.
Okay, congratulations, Winston. What are the plans for introducing the collaborative to underserved communities and our low and middle income countries?
Yeah, that also an excellent question. I mean, rare disease knows no borders, right? And I think many of the folks backstage will share that. I think the reality is that right now, there's still many challenges in lower income countries and underserved populations where there's still diagnosis that needs to be happen at the genetic level. So what we would do is we would work very effectively and in close collaboration with other organizations that are already driving that awareness. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. Instead, what we can give them is that once that diagnosis is made, here's an option for how you can be treated, just one of the many options, hopefully, and then also where you can be treated. So maybe there is a center in, say, the UK or a center in Boston that could, a patient who has the perfect amenability to treatment, they can come and be treated there. I will add one very important caveat, is that there is a real risk that if we don't have the proper guidelines and guardrails in place from a place like the N of 1 Collaborative, you may end up taking advantage of these vulnerable populations who otherwise don't have access to treatment. So it's for that reason, I think, having it published and well established, the guidelines, like what we are already doing, that helps provide the benefit risk in the most appropriate way.
All right, thank you, Diego. Great question. Jill?
Thank you, Winston. Thank you for providing all of this information. What are the challenges and opportunities that you anticipate when scaling the collaborative?
Yeah, the scale, I mean, we have ambitions to grow beyond just the N of few, right? And that actually we can treat millions of patients. The real challenge here is, it's both a challenge and an opportunity, and that's of heterogeneity, right? And put simply, when we're treating many of these different rare diseases, we're treating them with slightly different products, and we're treating them with we're often treating many different diseases. So I would say that is a real challenge in terms of our infrastructure and the technical problems we need to solve to capture all of that data in a meaningful and way. I think we can learn from many best practices of patient organizations are doing this. But I also want to reframe it as an opportunity, because when we talk to drug developers and you think about a therapeutic platform, is it more meaningful to have treated tens of thousands of patients with a single drug, or would you learn more from treating thousands of patients with slight variations of a foundational platform? And the unanimous answer came back, that would be the better learning opportunity, and the one where it can actually make commercial drugs better. So it's actually, in solving this challenge and really treating it as an opportunity, I think we can reframe it and say, this is an opportunity for companies like Amgen, for commercial biotechs really to participate, treat, but also learn to make better business decisions.
Thank you.
Well, this is definitely a rapid fire Q&A session, so thank you, judges. Let's give Winston one more round of applause.
Okay, so next up is care management for the HPS network, pop-up clinics in Puerto Rico. And this will be presented by Donna Appell, the Executive Director of the Hermansky-Pudlak Syndrome Network. So please help me in welcoming and supporting Donna onto the stage.
Thank you so much. I want to just mention that I am the nervous finalist of the group, so I'm kind of really scared to be here and really anxious to tell you our story. So as you know, I'm Donna Appell, the Executive Director of the Hermansky-Pudlak Syndrome Network. But more importantly, I'm Ashley's mom, who was born with albinism, causing legal blindness. But we came to find out that she had a type called Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome. She hemorrhaged very severely and had a traumatic brain injury from the event when she was 3 years old. We didn't want any other family to be as scared or as isolated as we were. So the Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome is a multi-system disorder, and the biggest problem is pulmonary fibrosis, which is fatal in their type 1, type 2, and type 4 in their 30s and 40s. We have members from all around the world, but it's very prevalent in Puerto Rico, where it's carried 1 in 1,800. My clicker is. Counting for 50% of the worldwide cases because of a genetic founder's effect there. We are so prevalent on the island that this year they actually dedicated an ambulance to us this year. I'm not exactly sure whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, but we were very honored. We've been on the island for 30 years having family conferences. We also have medical education conferences and have CME credits for the doctors so that we can train them in a good standard of care. The next thing we did was our dream of having a multidisciplinary clinic. To that, we pitched this to a doctor from the American Thoracic Society who became our shepherd and our hero and helped us establish this program in 2016. We see 30 to 40 families every 3 to 4 months. They're seen by multiple specialists, all in the same day. This is the huge problem. We are having a problem because the doctors are coming from different regions of the island, and they're handing our visually impaired patients their prescriptions, their treatment advice, and we're collecting these for them in folders for them and trying to manage this. It makes it very difficult for care coordination, and the standard of care there, it's just not satisfactory. This prize would help us by giving us care management coordination to build capacity so that we could do this electronically. Obviously, we need this. We can engage our community, improve healthcare access and outcomes. We want to enhance the research program on the island and have clinical research there for HPS. And it also expands training opportunities. We have many innovative educational tools that we'd like to disseminate. One is our QR code that pictures the platelet micrograft that depicts our bleeding disorder. This is given to the families. It gives them credibility when they go to the emergency department. We also have rack cards and databases that we want to load for the multiple systems that need care, and it's obviously in Spanish. Scalable, this is definitely a scalable model for rare disease management in underserved populations, and we would be very willing to help. Why can we manage this Amgen grant? First of all, we have 30 years of experience. We've been on the island trying to help for 30 years. 2, there's an amazing team. The incredible doctors, the volunteers, and our staff down there are incredible. And number 3, we have inexhaustible passion. That passion's making me very nervous right now. And thank you very much for listening.
That was great.
Holy moly.
All right, I would love to hand it over to our judges. Who has questions for Donna? Gabriela. Stick by the
Thank
podium.
you, Donna, for sharing your passion and all the amazing work that you do. I'd like to ask you if you can explain how your clinics are integrated into the local healthcare system and how you're working together with them to sustain and grow your program.
Sure, these doctors, they're just so unbelievable, but it's like Doctors Without Borders. They're kind of coming together to do this for us. But it is a critical hub of HPS care on the island, and it's very integrated in the healthcare system, first of all, because they give us some space. So we actually do have clinics. They avail us to some clinic rooms and clinic space, and therefore we can move it from Mayaguez to Ponce. Our recent one was in Ponce. So I really believe that they enjoy our clinic because it lightens the burden of this very complicated chronic illness to the community, to the medical community. Not only that, there are a lot of, a diminishing amount of subspecialists on the island because it's so hard to be there between hurricanes and Wi-Fi, just it's difficult. So subspecialists leave a lot. And these dedicated people all know one another. So everybody knows about the clinic. This is not, everybody knows the HPSA population on the island, and they know of the clinic. Not only that, we need to use their CAT scan machines. We're a clinic, but we don't have the machines that we need to use for these people. So it's very integrated. It's a team. Everybody knows it. And what's lovely is a kind of really very exciting for us is that the doctors also bring their medical students. And occasionally we have more students than we have patients. But that's because it's a great learning opportunity. It's a win-win because the students get to visit and work with the patients get extra care. So it's not an issue of integration at all. Everybody kind of knows us.
Thank you. Great question, Gabriela. Judges, who else has a question? Yasmeen.
Hi, Donna. Thank you for your dedication to rare diseases and congrats on being a finalist. Can you tell us more about how you would use the funds if you were to win the Amgen Prize, and how are you leveraging for maximum impact?
Sure. So in using the funds, first of all, what I mentioned, we need a care coordinator, but we also will be able to bring more patients. We'll be able to get this, the underpinning will give us ability to do more. We can access genetic testing for them more. One of the big goals of this is to bring clinical research for HPS onto the island. So in my 30 years experience working in this community, I've loaded 3 drug trials, and you're kind of bringing people to the mainland to get their research done. This needs to happen there. So in order for that to happen well and seamlessly, you need nonprofit organizations that can actually organize a cohort of very identified people. We have multiple genes, and I need to know who's got what gene and where they live, and this opportunity in Amgen's prize will give us more of the underpinning that we need to make these clinics strong and healthy and help with clinical trials. We're really hoping that we have a clinical trial, and we're building towards that so that we're research ready and we could load quickly. That's my job. And I think that this will help us. One of the very sad things to me, I brought tissues because I cry a lot, so I don't want to cry a lot, but one of the very difficult things to me is that these people die in their 30s and 40s, and there is no lung transplant center on the island, none. So we need to actually help them relocate, and that means leaving your home and your people and relocate to the States and get their lung transplant. Well, that stinks to high heaven, but what we need to do is to get really good care so that they can return home quickly. So this is training the physicians, having a clinic, like getting it so that they, we're not going to be in the position to be able to get a transplant center on the island, but I'll be darned if we can't make the standard of care on the island, accept them home quickly so that they can get back to their family. And Amgen, this will really support. We're a small organization, and it would really help to give us the support we need to make this stronger and better.
Thank you, Yasmeen. Thank you, Donna. I think we are out of time for this particular Q&A, but let's give one more round of applause for Donna.
Okay, so next up is the Odilia Collective, which will be presented by Ashley Winslow, CEO and CSO of Odilia Therapeutics. So please help me in welcoming Ashley to the stage.
Hi, and welcome to the Odilia Collective. We recently asked rare disease patients what a treatment means to them, and these are just a few of the answers we received. This is what these patient groups are fighting to change every day. In the current business model, pharma can't endure the costs of the high R&D costs in the face of small patient populations. So these patient groups are left becoming the next generation of drug developers, but they're doing this with a lack of resources and know-how. That leads to an overwhelming amount of wasted time, money, frustration, and ultimately burnout when these patient groups can't develop drugs in the face of those overwhelming statistics. These drugs can be developed. We have the know-how, but they're not being developed because the business model fails them. Odilia is a nonprofit with the mission of accelerating therapeutic development for rare disease. We do this by bringing resources and treatments to the patient communities directly who are pursuing drug development. We do this through initiatives like the Odilia Pipeline and our gene therapies in development, and we bring this to the broader audience and patient groups directly through initiatives like Bridge Solutions, the Odilia Library, and now the Odilia Collective. The Odilia Collective is a centralized marketplace that makes finding vendor services that are critical to drug development easy and accessible. The drug vendor landscape is a very complicated landscape that takes some difficulty to navigate. So most of the providers in this landscape are academic institutions, contract research organizations, contract development manufacturing groups, consultants, the list goes on. There's a lot of people in this space providing services with differing level of expertise. So in order to identify where these services live in that landscape, you have to tap into a network at the end of the day, and you have to know how to navigate it. The Odilia Collective brings that landscape into an organized, easy to navigate tool. Service seekers, or in this case, patient groups, will be able to navigate that landscape through a series of questionnaires. They can sign up and make a profile for free on the platform. They interact with the questionnaires so we can learn more about them, and vendors can learn about them in the process when they're trying to pair their services. But ultimately, the seeker drives that search through an easy keyword-based platform. Vendors list their services, and both navigate that platform into a more organized pipeline and a series of activities for them to pursue drug development over time. The vendor landscape will ultimately help provide sustainable funding for the platform by providing sponsorship opportunities through some of the marketing materials that will be made accessible. Vendors can come in and sponsor advanced features and build out that the patient community is already requesting through our interactions with them. Some of those include protocol sharing, data sharing, as well as pre-negotiated vendor templates, which will help both vendors and seekers, mostly our patient groups, navigate this process more easily and fluidly. Right now, our platform, the Odilia Collective, is in beta testing, and the Amgen Prize would allow us to accelerate our formal launch timelines. It would also allow us to hire critical resources to launch and build out advanced features for the platform. We'd also be able to shift into focusing less on just the sustainable foundation for the platform, but in that advanced feature build out, and build an ecosystem over time that enables patient groups to drive data and experience sharing and accelerate drug development across that ecosystem. The Odilia team has a track record of working directly with the rare disease community to identify problems and solutions and rolling that out to the community. Each of our staff members has been affected by rare disease either as a patient themselves or through our family members. So this is in the DNA of Odilia as a company. Help us turn passion into impact. Susan Dando, who we work with the SKS Foundation, most aptly quoted this recently, and I hopefully don't butcher her quote, but by arming this rare disease community with the right resources, we can turn passion into impact and build along the way a dynamic collective. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Nice job, Ashley. All right, I would love to turn it over now to our judging panel for anyone who has questions about the Odilia Collective. Michael.
Ashley, first of all, thank you for sharing such an innovative and inspiring solution for the rare disease community, and congratulations on being a finalist. Odilia has several product lines and service lines. How do you think about balancing or prioritizing within the collective?
Sure, so our mission is to accelerate therapeutic development for rare disease, and at the base of us as our identity is our deep drug development experience and expertise in the rare disease space. Each initiative we've taken on, including Bridge and the Odilia Library and now the Odilia Collective, is about building and expanding the impact of that expertise. So going beyond each single gene therapy we have in development, we're bringing that expertise and making it available and accessible to the broader audience. For us, this is a problem of access to drug development. So the Odilia Collective is in many ways a way to bring this to the broadest audience yet that Odilia can interact with. And that is centrally, vitally important for us to expand under our mission, stay true to that mission, but also ensure that as a nonprofit, we can bring those resources to the people who need it most. So it's a central piece to Odilia. It's a new piece, but this is about finding understanding what we have in our toolbox that we can leverage and bring into that landscape to be used more effectively. So it's an important piece, and the Amgen Prize would help us focus on that from day one.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Great question. Judges, who else has a question? Yasmeen.
Well, congrats on being a finalist here, and thank you for your dedication to rare diseases. What are the different ways the Odilia Collective will measure success, especially over the next 5 years as you grow and scale? And what has been your greatest impact to date?
So I'll start with the greatest impact to date. For Odilia, as I just mentioned, we've gone through an exciting period of growth. We started out as what we termed ourselves a nonprofit biotech. But I think our greatest success has been the ability to not just utilize that and build that into a successful entity, but leverage that into a much broader set of initiatives. We haven't figured out the word for that, but we've outgrown just being a biotech. Bringing these skill sets and making them accessible to the rare disease community allows us to not just affect one disease at a time, but we hope hundreds of diseases who can learn with us in partnership with us and recognize the value of also sharing that back to the community. So we really see this as developing an ecosystem. The collective is a part of that. And I think that's probably our best skill set is just recognizing where we can bring this to a broader audience at the end of the day. And do you mind repeating the first part of that question?
The first part was, what are the different ways the Odilia Collective will measure success, especially over the next 5 years as you grow and scale?
Right. So I think for us, success is going to be seekers and vendors, those patient groups and those vendors really engaging with the platform, not just to find the services, not just for listing services, but it's engaging in the platform in a meaningful way and ways that we recognize need advanced attention. Those advanced features, once we start seeing requests for those, and we're already starting to, it means to us that people really see this as a vital piece that can contribute to that bigger ecosystem. We also hope to see new partnerships. We've had an initial interest from a few partners, and so seeing that grow over time means people are engaged and think it's a meaningful solution in this space.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Yasmeen. I think we have time for a quick question and answer.
Great
Diego.
question. Congratulations, Ashley. It's a very inspiring initiative. Regarding the selected vendors, what sort of guardrails do you currently have or plan to have in place to mitigate potential risks to your users and beneficiaries?
Yeah, so I know we don't have a lot of time, so top level on this. We work with patient groups in every single thing that Odilia undertakes. So we're really used to engaging the patient community in a back and forth on what matters to them. And we have seen differences in opinions. So first rollout, we're trying to use objective measures of that vendor engagement, how responsive people are. But part of that is really understanding from the patient groups what they want to see as far as guardrails going forward. So we want to encourage relationship communication by highlighting the vendors who they've worked with so groups can connect amongst each other and learn about that more nuanced experience. And then over time, I think this will evolve once we better understand what patient groups are looking for and how they'd like to interact.
All right, thanks for the thoughtful questions, judges. Let's give one more round of applause for Ashley. All right.
Great, so our next up is Sarah Q, which will be presented by Mincheol Song. Mincheol is the Director of Research at Voice of Calling. So please join me in welcoming Mincheol to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mincheol Song from Voice of Calling, a nonprofit focused on democratizing computer science. It took 4 years for 9-year-old Izzy to be diagnosed with Friedreich's ataxia, causing frustration and financial strain on her family. This story is from Children with Ataxia, a book that includes the struggles faced by many children with ataxia and their families. Ataxia impairs muscle coordination, affecting 15,000 to 20,000 people in the US with spinocerebellar ataxia. The most commonly used test for assessing the motor skills of ataxia patients is a scale for the assessment and rating of ataxia. SARA test is conducted by a healthcare professional who manually records the results on paper. The SARA test is subjective, and for patients with mobility issues, meeting a specialist in person is a significant challenge. Sorry, the clicker is not working with me. Okay. That is why we came up with SARA Q, which allows patients to easily perform upper limb movement tests like finger to finger and finger to nose online. When a patient draws a line on the computer screen, it is analyzed in real time in 8 ways: deviation area, reverse movement, discontinuity, test area overshoot, tremor frequency, maximum amplitude, average rotational amplitude, and modulation speed analysis. The data is objective, quantitative, and precise. Since it operates on a website, the test can be easily conducted from anywhere without the need for a specialist. Additionally, data can be collected on a large scale using a cloud server. SARA-Q streamlines the medical process, enabling faster ataxia diagnosis, quicker treatment, and cost savings. The collected data can also be used in AI, speeding up new treatment development. Beyond SARA-Q, we are currently working on a project called Ataxia V, a 3D environment geared to aid in the rehabilitation of patients with ataxia. Our team includes Xuan Li, who has lived with Still's disease for 15 years and is deeply invested in rare disease diagnosis and treatment. I'm Mincheol, working as a CRO since cohort 3, with Joey, who has been a dedicated developer since cohort 1. And despite their young age, Hyunmyoung and Jeshin are outstanding programmers. Since 2018, Voice of Calling has led computer science projects in education, IT capacity building, and rare disease healthcare. With our global partners, we've made a strong impact in democratizing education. Our medical projects have earned international recognition, but our true goal is to directly impact ataxia patients. The Amgen Prize will help us turn this recognition into tangible support, achieving similar success in the medical field. The Amgen Prize would enable us to hire professional data engineers to work on SARA-Q, actively involve university interns from diverse backgrounds, and freely utilize cloud server resources. We listen, we go, we work. This is the motto of Voice of Calling, the NPO I belong to. We continue to do our best without any limitations, just as we always have, to make the world a better place for humanity. Thank you.
Nice job, Mincheol. Can you believe he's a sophomore in college? Amazing. All right, let's turn it over to our judges. Who has questions about SARA-Q? Diego.
Again. Okay, congratulations. It's an amazing work. Could you please specify what strategies of participation the community of patients and caregivers will have in the project, and how they will be able to assess whether the results achieved meet their needs and expectations?
Yeah, so to answer that question, we plan to expose SARA-Q at various conferences and competitions so that we could get the attention and trust of healthcare professionals in hopes of them guiding their patients to our platform. So in particular, we presented our project at the International Congress for Ataxia Research back in 2022, and we hope to go there again this year in a couple of weeks to further present our project and to further expand our network. And to answer the later portion of your question, because SARA-Q is already built off of a well-known SARA test, it's already deemed reliable, meaning that the community can put full trust in our platform to meet their expectations and needs.
Thanks, Diego. Who else has a question? Michael.
Well, congratulations again, and commend you on your achievements, particularly at such a young age. When and how does the team plan to prepare a more in-depth commercialization plan? For example, licensing, intellectual property, and then a regulatory path.
Yeah, so we have some sort of, checkpoints that we do want to achieve, and some sort of a timeline. So hopefully by the midpoint of next year, 2025, we hope to conclude our experimental phase with SARA-Q, and officially beginning our commercialization stage, where we hope to secure intellectual property rights, et cetera, like you mentioned. And in order to do this, we have multiple other steps in mind. So for example, by the end of this year, we plan on collaborating with the National Ataxia Foundation, or the NAF, to feature our SarahQ platform on their websites for healthcare professionals and other patients to use. And also, a couple weeks ago, towards the end of August, early September, as a part of an ODA support project, we were actually in Tanzania. And there we already built initial trust from the stakeholders at these Tanzanian hospitals. And because of this, in early next year, we hope to offer our SarahQ platform for free for the patients in Tanzania in exchange for data that we could use for further development. And then finally, hopefully by the start of 2026, we hope to officially launch our service with the hopes of garnering around 50 or so hospital doctors and professionals. And once we kind of familiarize our platform with these patients and hospital professionals, we hope to transition to some sort of subscription-based model.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. Jill.
Thank you, and I appreciate the enthusiasm and excitement that you share regarding SarahQ. So you spoke a little bit about this, but I'd like to know more about how you'll reach out to and ensure broad access to SarahQ for diverse communities and underserved populations around the world.
Yeah, so that's a great question that you brought up, and that's something that we really considered to be important when coming up with ideas and solutions for our project. So first and foremost, we want to prioritize having direct contact with the people that we're working with. So like I mentioned, we were in Tanzania a couple of weeks ago to gauge the situation. And with that, we want to partner with hospitals in Tanzania, as well as local interns from our sister organization, E3 Empower, that's located in Tanzania, who helped us come this far in terms of working with underrepresented communities. And on top of that, we also want to develop our SarahQ platform on a progressive web app, or a PWA. What that means is that we will be able to offer offline support, especially in areas where internet access may be lacking or not as strong, like here in the US. And finally, we do want to provide our solution as an open source format. What that means is that we will have more contributors and more developers who are dedicated to this cause to help us further reach our goal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. And thank you, Mincheol.
Thank you.
Let's give him one last round of applause.
Okay, so next up is Factor H, La Luz Caregivers Program, which will be presented by Ignacio Munoz-Sanjuan, President of Factor H. So please join me in welcoming Ignacio to the stage.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for being here. And thank you to the judges and Amgen and MIT Solve for giving us this opportunity, which has been amazing. Okay. The first thing I wanted to say is that when science and humanism come together, it becomes a very powerful force to change and address society's problems. I'm going to tell you a story about Huntington's disease, a disease that I've dedicated my professional life to find treatments for. Huntington's disease is a rare genetic disorder that affects the brain, progresses slowly, leading to complete disability and an early death. Communities in Venezuela have the highest incidence of this disease in the world. Members from these communities enable the discovery of the mutation that causes HD, yet today they're living in conditions of extreme vulnerability. I'm going to tell you about our ongoing caregivers program to support Huntington's disease patients in Venezuela. Factor H works through implementing multiple programs according to our 4 pillars: health, community development, youth, and advocacy. We're extraordinarily lucky to have an amazing team in Venezuela that implements our programs: social workers, artists, community leaders, medical professionals. We all work together as part of a single team. For us, the most innovative solution, number 1, is to be there when nobody else is. We have identified many families, 90% of whom are living in conditions of extreme poverty with no medical or institutional support. We have deeply characterized these communities, both from a medical and socioeconomic perspective, so we can prioritize our programs. We have implemented a range of medical and psychological programs for the benefit of patients and the children at risk for this disease, and a wide range of humanitarian activities. And now onto our caregiver support program. The caregivers are often the forgotten side victims of this disease, and they carry an immense physical, psychological, and emotional burden, and they're often alone. Through our home care program, we're able to provide both equipment to care for the patients as well as educational assistance that benefits not only the patients but also the caregivers themselves. What would the Amgen Prize enable us to do? Well, number one, we need to grow our program. We have identified 169 caregivers, 70% of whom are women, and they need training. Through our educational programs and providing equipment, we're able to train local caregivers who then can train other caregivers in these and other communities. We also have implemented psychological and medical support groups, and we want to move this program forward to also be able to provide occupational training opportunities for the caregivers so they can become financially independent. And finally, we want to continue to build on infrastructure, including safe spaces with showers for the patients. Most of these individuals live in houses without running water, and taking care of the patients becomes very difficult. Finally, the prize also enables us to have a broader reach than in these communities in Venezuela. We know that the vast majority of patients, not only in Venezuela, but all throughout Latin America, are people that we do not yet know. The learnings from implementing the caregivers program in Venezuela is going to be incorporated into a digital application that provides culturally sensitive material that is adequate for these types of families, no matter where they reside in Latin America, and in a way that is accessible and simple to follow. Let's not forget that a new generation of HD victims are already children growing up in Venezuela and many other places around the world at the moment. Let's help us help them. Thank you very much.
Nice job, Ignacio. All right, judges, who has questions for Ignacio about Factor H? Yasmeen.
Thank you for your dedication to caregivers. They're often overlooked, and congrats on being a finalist. How scalable is this program across different geographies, and do you think it could scale to other disease areas as well?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the program is scalable in different ways. Let's start with the digital phone-based application, which we conceptualize it to begin with because we realize that we don't have sufficient people on the ground to help most of the families. And in fact, we don't even know where they exist. And there is a vast lack of access to information in a way that is adequate for people living in conditions of extreme vulnerability. We are also working in Colombia and Peru, so we understand that there are many other communities throughout Latin America that would benefit from that. We also know of many other genetic mental disorders that the caregivers program will collect information that's broadly applicable to other disorders, especially in late stages of managed care in the home environment. So we think it's broadly applicable. We also know of many other communities around the world that reach out to us for advice all the time, and we want to create a platform where all of this information can be tailored to their specific community needs in different cultural environments.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Yasmeen. What other questions? Jill.
Ignacio, how are caregivers and families involved in the design and development of this program? How do you ensure that it remains responsive to their needs?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is our philosophy is always to work at a very local level. So all of the people on the ground, many of whom are community leaders. And in fact, the ideas for the caregivers program was really initiated by conversations with local caregivers who were coming up to us to let us know what their needs were. Throughout the process that we have conceptualized, we're going to be engaging directly both in taking information, for example, how to prepare a meal in a way that is appropriate for these communities, incorporating that into the applications, and then take the lessons from the implementation to continue to build on that process. And that can be externalized through the patient associations with whom we're in touch in every Latin American country to begin to adapt it culturally to other communities. But caregiver feedback is an essential component of our strategy.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jill. I think we have time for one more question. Gabriela.
Thank you, Ignacio. So context is relevant for implementation. So we know that Venezuela is facing a very difficult socio-political situation right now. Can you tell us how this has impacted your program so far, and how do you anticipate it might in the future?
Yes, thank you for that question. And the first thing is we've been working in Venezuela now for more than 8 years with our Venezuelan colleagues, and we've been adapting how we approach the ever-changing landscape, whether it's medical or socioeconomic. Our biggest challenge at the moment, I think, is probably migration. There's been a lot of, a big exodus. Initially, we're professionals, so we lost most of the medical specialists that we had to replace through other means. But I think we've shown a lot of adaptability in changing circumstances, and we have established key collaborations with local universities, and we have a large team of volunteers. So I think we're going to be able to adapt, but we are actively always planning for what's happening next in Venezuela. Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you, judges. Thank you, Ignacio. Yeah, you can hold on to that. Let's give him one more round of applause.
Okay, so that concludes the final session and the presentations by the 5 finalists. So I'd like to invite all of the finalists and Noel to come back on stage, where we can give them a round of applause along with their judges. So judges, maybe if you stand up, and to thank all the judges for their support of the Amgen Prize. We're very excited to be here and very excited by today's session, and certainly outstanding presentations by all of our finalists here. And you know, we're excited. Actually, after this session, you can get to meet the finalists out in the coffee reception right after, just outside. So take the time, meet the finalists, meet the judges. Right, we'll be there and happy to discuss more about the rare disease therapeutic areas and the support to the patients and caregivers that we can provide. And with that, the session is closed. But tomorrow, 11:15 in the East Room, we're going to be announcing the prize winner of the $150,000 for the first Amgen Prize. And so we'd be excited if you could come back and join us for that session, where you can meet the award winners. So with that, thank you, everybody, and hope you have a great rest of the day.